Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 32nd episode of the Triboro Podcast. I'm your host, always, Justin Alonso, joined by Nicholas O'Brien. And you guys probably noticed, we're not in our dorm anymore. We actually want to be official for once. So we are in our school's local radio station, 88.7 WNHU. For those that know, we do the radio broadcast with the Triboro Sports Show with Ian Sachi from 4 to 6 on Fridays. But we are in the podcast room because, like I said, we are trying to be official for once.
I know.
Crazy. It's a
Lot
crazy
more
concept.
professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's really cool. Obviously, I think it's going to be a lot better, not only for you guys, but for us as well, just dealing with a lot of, behind-the-scenes stuff. But obviously, the ultimate goal is to make things better for you guys. So any feedback you have on our setup here, please let us know. But it feels pretty good to be in a more official space, especially
Definitely.
out of the dorm room from where we kind of just reside and take over the
Yeah.
comment space whenever we record. So now this is it's pretty cool. And, very excited to use this space.
Yeah. Quick thank you to Joe and Evan for being very understanding about that, by the way.
exactly.
And Ryan last year.
You guys are the best for just letting us take over half the room for like 2-3
Half?
hours at a time.
Half? No, it's way more than half.
75%.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah. Opening day.
Opening day.
Weekend.
very different perspectives on what happened.
Quite different.
Quite different.
Could not be more different, I think.
Yeah.
But, baseball's back for better or for worse. And, we're both very excited because obviously this means more content for you guys, more stuff for us to do, more things to talk about instead of the long, boring, dragged on offseason that was this past offseason.
Where
But,
Jordan Montgomery literally signed 2 days before the season started.
Yeah, exactly.
With the Diamondbacks.
With
Are
the
we going to see
Diamondbacks.
him?
I don't think so. I think he's
Don't
still
think
getting
so?
ready.
Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of like JD Martinez. He still
Yeah,
needs
yeah,
to
yeah.
ramp up for himself. So
Both Diamondback legends.
exactly. So the Yankees will probably be missing the Diamondbacks in their upcoming series. I mean, missing
You could do it.
Montgomery on the Diamondbacks in the upcoming series.
Yeah. We'll get more into that later,
Of
but
course.
yeah,
Let's get into Queens.
unfortunately.
Now entering Queens.
Everybody, welcome back to Queens, the Mets section of our lovely podcast here. And very quickly, we're going to start off with some breaking news. Came out just a few minutes ago before we started recording, which we'll get into more a little later, but just to get it right off the rip, Tyler McGill is being placed on the 15-day IL for right shoulder strain. Obviously, he pitched in yesterday's Sunday game against the Milwaukee Brewers. He only pitched 4 innings. It was later found out that he was taken out due to some fatigue, and I think they described it as tenderness in his shoulder. So, again, we'll get more into that later, but Tyler McGill is on the 15-day IL with a right shoulder strain, and Reed Garrett has been called up. I will explain that move a little more later because there's a lot of context behind it, methinks. But, yeah, without further ado, the 2024 Mets season is off to a very, very poor start. And man, it's tough to just, you're excited for opening day, you're glad baseball's back, and then you realize how much this game takes a toll on
your mental health. Yeah.
So the Mets were swept at home for opening weekend, the first opening weekend since, I believe, 2018 it was. So it's been a while. Would have been nice to at least grab one win. But the Mets had some other ideas. So to quickly get into the game recap so we can talk some big overarching themes of this series. Game 1, opening day, they were rained out Thursday, played that game Friday. Jose Quintana was your opening day starter. He went 4 2/3, allowed 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. From the rip, he had some uncharacteristic command issues, is what I would describe it as. He's not known as a guy who really walks people, and he only walked 2 guys, but he was still missing a lot of spots. He was still like flailing. A lot was being missed outside or inside. So it was just really, I'm going to draw it up to maybe just some nerves, some jitters, because this is Quintana's first opening day start in over a decade,
I was
think.
gonna ask that.
I
Yeah.
think he pitched opening day for the White Sox at one point.
And Chicago is a lot different than New York for opening day.
Exactly.
I feel like because he hasn't had kind of a full season with the Mets, right? A full like non-injury ridden season.
Yeah, he was hurt for half the year last year.
Exactly. So it's a thing of this is kind of his first year in a sense,
Right.
where it's like that first full year kind of how am I going to perform and yada yada yada.
Right. Last year was just focused on getting healthy, but now he's a part of the rotation. He's here from the rip, and he was opening day starter. And just to fact checked myself, he did start opening day for the White Sox in 2017. So it's been 7 years since his last opening day
He
start.
is the same age as Chris Sale.
That's wild.
That is crazy.
So they were in the same rotation, I would think.
Maybe.
Perhaps. Maybe.
Regardless, doesn't matter.
Whatever. Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so Quintana, very iffy outing. But I mean, 4 2/3. Would have liked to see him finish 5, maybe push himself a little more. 2 runs is not bad. Opening day, again, Quintana was really supposed to be...
you said 4 2/3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really supposed to be your 2, maybe 3. And now with Senga out, he was basically your ace starting opening day. So I will take that in a heartbeat. But on the other side of the ball, with the offense, they only mustered 1 hit, which was a Starling Marte home run. So, it was very good to see from Marte. Overall, which I'll get into later, he had a pretty decent opening weekend. He looks good, which I'm really happy about. But yeah, the only hit that came off the Mets bats were a Starling Marte home run. I think it was like second, third inning, and then
Yeah.
nothing else. Mets could not touch Freddie Peralta, the 3-headed monster of Trevor McGill. I think it's Joel Palpas. I forget. I can't pronounce his last name. And then Uribe, who is their closer for now with Devin Williams out, could not touch them. They were they had no answers for it. Extremely frustrating to watch. But on the other side of things, the bullpen was really solid. They had to cover a little over 4 innings, and they only gave up 1 more hit. 2 more runs, which ended in a 3-4. Wow, I am so sorry. Ended in a 4-1 loss for your New York Mets.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I was looking at the final score thing, and you
Yeah.
have 3-1, so I was going to say 2 more.
Yeah, I just completely messed up.
You're fine.
They lost 3-1. So the bullpen only let up 1 run in 4 1/3. And that was a combination of Michael Tonkin and Drew Smith. I believe, who else got in there? I forget. Sorry. But just nice from the bullpen. Covered a lot of innings and only gave up 1 run. Kept the team in the game till the very last out. But again, the offense just had no answers for the Brewers pitching. And then you have the most controversial part of this game and most controversial part of this weekend as a whole. Good friend of mine, good friend of the Mets, good old...
Friend of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Good old Rhys Hoskins, former Philly. Got into it a little bit with second baseman Jeff McNeil.
A little bit?
A tad, a smidge. So to give some context if you missed it, it was a ground ball to third base. Brett Beatty threw to Jeff McNeil, tried to turn a double play. Hoskins slid late and slid hard into second base, like 2 feet to the left of the bag, and kind of cleated McNeil, looked like in the shin a little bit, and McNeil went down with Hoskins. And yeah, obviously McNeil did not take too kindly to that hard late slide and started, yelling and being Jeff McNeil at Rhys Hoskins. I have not liked Hoskins. I will go on the record to say that Hoskins is one of my least liked players in the major leagues right now. And for him in the first game,
Him or Machado?
him and Machado.
No, I'm saying who do you hate more?
After this, Hoskins.
Okay.
It's not close. But to go into the season, the very first game, and pull some bullshit like that, absolute Bush League. I don't care what you say about the slide. It was a dirty slide. Now, dirty doesn't mean illegal, because by all means,
It was legal.
It was legal. That is a Bush League slide, and he's a piece of shit for doing that fucking slide to a player on opening day.
I'm only laughing because of, so a little context. When this happened, me and Ian were in the radio show, and Nick was on Zoom, and this was like 10 minutes before, and Nick is cursing up a storm. And then when it gets to the radio show, of course, we can't curse on the radio show.
Yep.
So Nick is trying so hard not to curse.
Right.
So then to see the 180 from cursing to not cursing, and then the 180 to come back all the way here,
Yeah.
it's...
I kept it cool because obviously it just
Somehow.
happened.
Somehow.
So it was fresh at that point. But man, I keep seeing that slide, and it's such a, again, Bush League slide.
Yeah,
and
it's dirty.
I get it. Look, he's trying to probably, mess up the double play. But they made a rule about slides like that for a reason, because another Met got their leg broken in the playoffs for another piece of shit in Chase Utley.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm talking about Ruben Tejada in the 2015 playoffs. When Utley slid hard into Tejada, broke his leg, he missed the rest of the playoffs. They made a rule on these slides to protect the players. And to do a slide like that on the first game of the season, piece of shit.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, from an outside looking in and a more non-biased viewpoint, what are your thoughts on that slide?
My thought is, one, like, I have no problem with the idea of trying to break up a double play, but the way he did it is where the problem. Because for me, you slide with your cleats like that, that's horrible. They're called spikes for a reason. Most cleats, if not all cleats, have metal spikes on the end of them, and you're literally driving metal spikes full speed into someone's leg. You could break their leg easily. You could cut them up badly. You could do so many different things. And cleats aren't the cleanest thing in the world. Maybe that gets infected if it cuts it up. So my thing is, if you're going to do something like that, go with your foot down. Like kind of, this is going to be weird.
Yep.
Like he kind of did it like this.
Yeah.
Kind of like angle your foot down. This is the stuff that you watch the podcast for.
Exactly.
Go down like that and aim maybe for like the foot. Don't aim for like the middle of the leg where you could just completely break it.
Right. And my biggest thing is he was like 2 feet to the left of the bag.
It wasn't even close.
He was not sliding for the bag.
Yeah.
He had to wrap his arm around the bag to hang on. So if that doesn't tell you what his intentions were, then I don't know what will.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I said, it's extremely controversial because some people see this as a clean play. He's just breaking up the double play, stuff like that.
For me, it's the cleats. The way the cleats, that's the part that really bothers me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's just, like, McNeil went down because of it. Obviously, he's fine. It didn't seem like it got him too bad.
Still.
But he fell.
First game of the season, for one of your best offensive players,
Right. He fell, and that was my biggest thing. Like, if he kind of just, like, stumbled back or whatever, but he got McNeil, and he fell to the ground. So, obviously, that was the intention. And then Hoskins gets up, starts walking away like nothing, and then once he's in the protection of his team, he starts talking shit. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you that much of a pussy to start waiting until you're behind your team to just start crying like a bitch? Are you fucking kidding me?
That, like I said, it's a new setup for us,
Yes.
so a little bit of technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So back into McNeil and Hoskins.
Yeah, so again, sorry about that, but basically what I was getting to is Hoskins motioned, the crying, 2 fists to the underneath the eyes and wiping once he was behind his team.
Yeah.
And to me, like, that's such...
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you kidding me? Can you not do that in front of the guy? If you have a problem with he's complaining about your own slide and you wait to basically talk back once you're behind your team, like, if you don't agree with it, then say it to his face. Like, settle it there. Like, if it's that much of an issue. McNeil had no issue screaming into Hoskins' face, but Hoskins waited until he was behind his team to talk back.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? So that was late in the game.
I was just going to add on to
Yeah.
that, too, where it's clear the intention, because if that was an accident, the second he hits McNeil down, he goes, "Are you okay?" Like, he goes like that.
Right.
You could tell if it's an accident or not. Like, that's the same thing with me when, like, a guy hits someone with a pitch. You can tell the second right away if it's accidental or not, just by their reaction.
Right.
There was no remorse from him.
No.
That's it's horrible.
Right. He took down McNeil. He got called out, got up, walked away.
Yeah.
Saw nothing wrong with it. But that was basically the end of game one. Very sour taste in everyone's mouth at the end of that one. And it really didn't get much better from there. So game two was the season and Mets debut of Luis Severino. Yikes. Not a good start for Severino after a really, really good spring. Severino went 5 innings. He allowed 12 hits, a career high, 6 earned runs, didn't walk anybody, so I guess there's that, and struck out 6.
I will say on Sevy, he doesn't, when he gets lit up like that, it's by hits.
Yeah.
It's not by walks. Like, you would be surprised. It's almost, he's almost better when he doesn't have A-level control.
Right.
If that makes any sense. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like when his stuff is as dirty as it is and as elite as it is, it's when it's moving a lot where, like, he may have a walk or two, but he'll have, like, 2 or 3 hits.
Right. And, yeah, it was just death by 1,000 hits. A couple bad pitches here and there. Of course, he let up a bomb to Rhys Hoskins in one of the few beginning innings, but he just never really settled. Like I said, death by 1,000 hits, and just was not a good outing. I mean, he still got the 5 innings, which is great.
Yeah.
You didn't have to burn as much bullpen, but still,
Especially after Quintana only went 4 2/3.
right. So it was just rough all around for Severino. But as one of the most Mets things ever, the offense tried to scratch and claw back, really thanks to the kids. Francisco Alvarez hit his first home run of the year, and he
That
followed that
over's
up
looking nice.
with a RBI single. That made it, at that point, I don't even know. It was at that point, probably like 4-2. And then it wasn't until later in the game where Brett Beatty pinched hit and hit a 3-run home run against a lefty. And I just want to say that,
Weird, but
right, I just want to say that Beatty, like, this made me really happy and also excited for Beatty just because of how he handled it. Because he didn't start the game. He came off the bench as a pinch hitter. I was reading an article. He knew he was going to face, I believe it was Holby Miller, the Brewers, who was a funky lefty, a weird sidearm, like kind of Darren O'Day-ish.
Paul Fry.
Right. That kind of weird, funky delivery. And he hits a 3-run home run on the first pitch he sees.
Mm-hmm.
So just from a mental standpoint, I think A, is really good for Beatty, and B, obviously just brought the team closer.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, I believe it was 7-5 or 6-5. I think it was 6-5. And unfortunately, they added another run after that. But then in the 9th inning, Alonso made it so much close with his first home run of the year for a solo shot. That made it 7-6 Brewers. And that was your final score.
And then he
in
went to
game
see Zach
2.
Bryan.
And then he went to see Zach Bryan afterwards. And if you have a problem with that, then why? Let him have fun.
Yeah.
He probably bought these tickets way in advance, so how are you supposed to know
Yeah.
he was going to lose the game that day?
Mm.
Let the guy's still human. Let him have his fun.
Yeah.
But the Hoskins stuff continues. In this game, you had Yohan Ramirez, who made the team out of spring training, throw behind Hoskins. I'm just trying to collect my thoughts here because I have a lot
This
of
game
thoughts on
two?
this. This is game 2.
I thought it was game 3 when that
It
happened.
was game 2.
Okay.
So let's just do it by the facts. Ramirez throws behind Hoskins. I will say it was probably too high. If you're going to hit somebody, you're not aiming for the head,
Aim for the back.
right? Aiming for the back, the butt, even if maybe you're not even hitting him at all,
You're aiming for big chunks of meat.
right. Either, chin music, or you're throwing behind the back, or you're hitting him in the backslash butt. This ball was probably a little too high for everybody's liking. If you kind of look at the broadcast, it was more so near the neckline, but again, still
That
way
may
too
even be
high.
worse than the head.
Right. That's one thing. The second thing is the guy at that point in the game was 3 for 3 with 4 RBI. If you were going to, quote unquote, retaliate after what happened with McNeil, it should have been the first at-bat, and you roll the dice with Severino. I understand that the bullpen had a lot of innings on it the game before, but my biggest thing is no warnings were issued before the game. So if the umpires had an issue with it, let me start us off by saying Ramirez was promptly ejected after he threw behind Hoskins. So
Goodbye.
right. Would Severino get ejected? I'm not sure. That's probably why. Again, if this was planned, because who knows? This could have just been Ramirez on his own. If this was planned, I can understand why you don't want to throw at him in the first at-bat, because it would probably be, if all things went well, it would be the second inning, because I believe he was hitting 4th or 5th. It would be in the second inning. You don't want to lose your starter that early after covering a little more than 4 innings in the bullpen the day before. I understand that, but at the same time, if you want to throw at a guy, you don't have to make it obvious. You can throw inside. Even if you hit him, you can plead your case, whatever. But the biggest thing is you can still throw inside, and that can still send a message, and that's all you needed to do. But I think the way that, whether it was planned or not, the way the Mets handled this whole situation was extremely embarrassing. You threw at him way too late after he basically smashed your heads in this game. You threw at him way too high because, again, as much as I don't like the guy, you don't want to seriously hurt him. You just want to send a message, you mess with our guys, we'll mess with you. That's all you're trying to do.
Not trying to put him on the IL.
Right. You just want to send a message. So if it was planned, I would have liked to see it the first at bat, because again, at that point, he was beating your heads in 3 for 3, 4 RBI for a home run. It just looks so much worse at that point. And again, hindsight is 20/20, because Severino didn't have a good outing. Hoskins was beating your head in. Who knows? Maybe that, if it was planned, maybe that was the plan all along. Let Severino pitch. First guy out of the bullpen, you're throwing at him. But it could also have been on Ramirez. Now, that whole ordeal was embarrassing. But it's frustrating from a Mets perspective, because Ramirez was ejected immediately, again, after no warnings were issued beforehand. Now, I'm going to assume that's because it was too high. Because if he was thrown at intentionally and it was kind of back area, maybe he doesn't get ejected. But you eject him.
Stern talking to.
Right. You eject him immediately after no warnings, and then he gets suspended for 3 games. I understand where the ball ended up, whether it was intentional or not, but you gave him no warning.
Yeah.
I think that's absurd.
I agree. It's one thing to eject him, but without a warning, I don't agree with that. But to suspend him when there wasn't a warning either, you can't do both.
Right.
One or the other, but you can't do both.
Exactly. And then on top of that, Carlos Mendoza was suspended as well.
I find that funny, but
I don't really understand. I think what MLB deemed it is because of Ramirez's actions, whether it was planned or not. I guess the manager just takes the fall.
That always happens.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I find that funny when the manager, who almost has no effect on the game itself, gets suspended because of an individual player's actions.
Right.
It's stupid to me.
Yeah, so that was just extremely frustrating. And just the theme of this whole game was too little too late. You throw at Hoskins late. You throw too high. You try to make an offensive comeback, and you lose by 1 run in the 9th inning, 7-6. just very frustrating. It's very embarrassing as a whole. I still think that, yeah, should Hoskins get thrown at? Probably, just not like that. But
It's part of gamesmanship to
right.
throw at a guy.
And at the same time, you want to send another message, strike him out. Make him go 0 for 4. Win the game. That's another message you can send. But they did neither. And it was just a very poor start to the Mets season. And I'm a little disappointed in how Carlos Mendoza's tenure as Mets manager has started as well. Because, first 2 games, rough. Then he gets suspended. He's not even there for game 3. And, they get swept. So it's a little disappointing, to say the least. But moving on to game 3.
But how much of it is, just to mention,
Yeah.
how much is that a reflection of him or the team?
That's the other thing. It goes both ways, I think.
Because it's not like they did much better when he wasn't there.
Right. And it's to the point where, who knows if the whole Hoskins thing was planned. If it was planned by Mendoza, the first reliever is going to throw at him. I don't like that.
I feel like Mendoza was... this could be different with him as a manager, but he was more the even keel type.
Right.
With the Yankees, where it was he was the ice to Boone's fire.
Yeah.
So that obviously could change with him being the manager, and he needs to kind of be the fire, but
Right. Yeah,
that doesn't seem like something he would do.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that a little bit, especially in his post-game conferences. He's very level-headed. So far he hasn't really got fired up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously when Ramirez got ejected, he came out, he was yelling, he was, excuse me, he was doing whatever, but in his post-game conferences, it's very relaxed, very professional, kind of the intention is not to hurt somebody. That was what he said. And it was very just calm. And, that's not what a lot of people want to see, especially from a new manager. They want them to fire up the team, fire up the fans. But at the same time, Mendoza's getting his feet wet, so I'm not ready to close the book on him just yet. Obviously, it's the 3rd game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I am still a little uneasy about how his tenure has started.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to the last game of the series, Tyler McGill made the start. Like I mentioned earlier, he is now on the 15-day IL with a right shoulder sprain. He went 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Kind of like Quintana, inconsistent command from the start, but that's always been his issue. And who knows how much his shoulder had to do with that, because Josh Gibbons, who was the manager as Mendoza was suspended that game, mentioned that they did take him out early due to tenderness in his shoulder, which now is a shoulder strain. So who knows how much his shoulder played into that, but I think he pitched fine. He got out of a lot of jams that he had no business getting out of, and he kept the game within reach. And Yohan Ramirez made another appearance. He was appealing his suspension, so as the smart thing to do, he completely gassed him out. He pitched 3 innings. He can't play now for, I think it was a 3-game suspension. Probably not going to use him for the next 3 games anyways. And this goes into Reed Garrett getting called up because of Tyler McGill's injury. So the thought process I'm sure the Mets had, and what I'm getting from this, is you gassed out Ramirez. He's going to be suspended. You don't need a 5th starter just yet. So you have another bullpen arm. I think that's where the thought process is with that, because I know a lot of people will be clamoring, oh, where's Jose Butto? Where's Joey Lucchesi? I'm sure that's going to come when McGill's spot in the rotation is up. But as of right now, they're down a bullpen arm because of Ramirez's suspension. So Reed Garrett then fills in that spot. And again, the offense nowhere to be found in this game as they lost 4-1. Only run came off a Tyrone Taylor RBI single. And that was really it. Yikes. I mean, you could not have drawn up a worse start to the season, I don't think. Between getting swept and the Hoskins scenario, it's just, obviously you want to win. You didn't win. You want to go about things the right way. I think you kind of embarrassed yourself with the way you went about the Hoskins situation. And I'm still gathering my thoughts. Obviously, I'm not ready to hit the panic button.
Bucket?
The panic bucket. I'm not ready to kick the panic bucket. But
You could do it.
look, it's the third game of the season of a 162-game season. Baseball is not for the faint of heart. You cannot live and die in every single game, as much as I was. But, yeah, it was just
Now,
extremely
my
frustrating.
question,
Yeah.
is this almost what the Mets need?
Maybe.
Because the Mets always start out hot and then fizzle out.
Right.
What if they need a really cold start and then go up?
Maybe.
Because, quite literally, you can only get better from here.
Yes. You have no wins.
You have no wins. You can only do better
You
from
are
here
bound
on.
to get one win this entire season. It's going to happen at one point. But no, you're right. They tend to start hot and kind of fizzle out, especially in June. You know?
What's the date that everyone always looks at?
June?
No, but I thought there was like a
Day.
date. Or like the June swoon.
Yeah, it's just the entire month of June. They just
Yeah.
play horribly. So maybe you just get that out now,
Yeah.
and you have a more consistent
The
summer.
April swoon.
Right. But this series was just filled with lack of hitting, I guess. You know, I think as much of a question mark the pitching was coming into the season, they kept the team in the game the entire time. I mean, they lost 4-1. 7-6. Severino had a bad start. That's like the one wash. 4-1. I think that's all, you know, with a solid offense, which I think this offense can be, that's not horrible. Like those are winnable games. Besides Severino, the pitching is keeping you in this game. The offense is nowhere to be found. And the biggest culprit of that was in Game 3 with Omar Narvaez. And I, compared to, I guess, other people, have not ridiculed Billy Epler as much. But the Omar Narvaez signing continues to boggle my mind because you had Francisco Alvarez coming up. You had Tomas Nido, who was a serviceable backup catcher. And then you sign Omar Narvaez to a one-year deal of a player option, which obviously being hurt last year, he was going to...
Accept.
Yeah, he was going to take his player option, and now he's here. But what does he do better than Tomas Nido? Bat from the left side?
Make more money.
He does. Yeah, exactly. He's a lefty Tomas Nido that's making probably twice as much.
Mm-hmm.
I just continue to question the signing, and
Didn't you like it at first?
I was just confused.
Mm.
I was confused at first, but I looked at it, and he had some decent offensive seasons. So I was like, okay, you know, maybe they're not ready for Alvarez to take the reins and be catcher. Obviously, he did.
And when did Alvarez come up last year?
Like May, because Narvaez got hurt in the end of. No, he got hurt in the second series of the game of the season.
Yeah.
So he probably came up in April. Narvaez was hurt the entire time. So you sign him. He's hurt entire last year. Alvarez comes up, show you that he's ready. Alvarez is now your primary catcher. Narvaez is the backup. And he's a very expensive backup that probably doesn't do much better than the backup you have in AAA, in Tomas Nido. He left 4 men on base Game 3. The Mets left 8 men on base in total. So he accounted for half of that because he had a pristine opportunity to get the Mets back in the game with bases loaded, 2 outs. And I'll admit, he gave it a ride, but he flew out to the warning track. And he had, it was this game. He had catcher's interference that basically led to a run. That was the one unearned run on Tyler McGill's ledger. And again, it's just, what does he do better than Tomas Nido that he's on this team? And I get he's a backup catcher, but he doesn't really do anything offensively. His defense is not as good as in the past. You know, he had the catcher's interference call. The Brewers ran rampant on him. The Brewers had a lot of stolen bases that game. And again, he just didn't come up with anything. Like, it's bases loaded, 2 outs. You just need a single to kind of get into the rhythm and just pass the baton. So it's just extremely frustrating. But the entire offense was frustrating as a whole. I mean, I could go up and down the line. Nimmo, 1 for 13. Lindor, 1 for 12 with a walk. McNeil, 1 for 11. And he was hitting cleanup. Don't exactly love that.
That's very... Like, I feel like that's the complete opposite of what McNeil is.
Right. Especially when he's not in a groove and he's not producing like we seen last year, like we saw in 2021.
You want your cleanup hitter to pop, and like nothing against McNeil, that's
doesn't.
not his game.
That's
just not it. Like there's nothing wrong with that. He is a very good hitter at what he does, but that's just why.
Right. It doesn't really make
why?
sense.
Like it does.
And you have guys like Alvarez who could probably hit cleanup.
I was gonna say I feel like Alvarez is a much better option. Like
Right.
you want to do Alvarez, you want to do maybe Alonso. I like Alonso 3 more, but
Yeah.
that's even Lindor if you want, because didn't he clean up a decent bit last year? I could be wrong,
a
but
few
like
times.
yeah, but like even that, where like he has shown more power last year, so or more approach for more power. So I
Right.
mean, those are 3 guys that are significantly better options.
Right, over a contact guy like McNeil.
Yeah.
And obviously when JD Martinez is ready, he takes up that cleanup
100%,
spot.
yeah.
So, but until he's ready, you kind of need to just figure it out.
What's the harm in giving Alvarez the
Right.
spot?
Right. He's been batting 6th, 7th. Don't know, not 8th.
You think
think
he's your
6th, 7th.
future? Let him prove he's your
Right.
future.
I think until JD Martinez is ready, it should go Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, Alvarez.
I'd agree.
Then if you want to hit McNeil 5th, hit McNeil 5th.
I kind of like that 5th.
Right. And then followed by Marte, Beatty, Bader.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what you need to roll with right now. But until McNeil produces, though,
Who's the 9th guy?
did I not name?
Because you said then Marte, Nimmo, or Marte, Beatty, Bader.
Yeah,
That's 8.
that's 8. Who am I missing?
An outfielder or DH?
I think I'm missing DH. DH. Who knows? Because that's Martinez's spot. But
Yeah.
the first game it was DJ Stewart. Second game, I believe, was Starling Marte. Third game was Alvarez. So I don't think there's going to be a DH.
It's going to be a revolving door.
Right. DJ Stewart, unfortunately, I don't think he
The little insanity
has
run
much.
is over.
Yeah, I don't think he has much to offer. So he's obviously the odd one out once Martinez is ready. But I'm sure they're going to give him some at-bats because, of course, they are. So maybe he's 5th, and then you hit Marte 6th, McNeil. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't make the lineup. But the thing with McNeil is if he's not hitting and he's not a close to 300 hitter, he's a liability in the lineup, unfortunately. He has a tendency to uppercut his swing, which I think he's starting to do again to start the season. You can kind of see it. It's not a clear uppercut, but there's a lot more uppercut to it than
I get what you
a
mean. It's not
level
Joey
swing.
Gallo, but it's like...
Right. It's kind of similar to Volpe's swing last year. And,
And they're very similar players, too, in the sense of you want them to just make bat-to-ball contact.
right, you just
That's
want them
all
on
you
base.
want. Yeah.
And again, that even goes more so against the cleanup thing. Like you just
Mm-hmm.
he's a table setter. He's not supposed to clear the table. He's supposed to set the table.
Yeah.
But you need him to produce.
I
Go.
know Nimmo is your leadoff hitter, but I would much rather McNeil lead off than cleanup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
definitely.
Nimmo would be a better cleanup than McNeil. But I'm
Definitely.
not saying put Nimmo at cleanup. I'm just saying
between the two.
overall, it just doesn't make sense.
Right. I completely agree. And before they signed Martinez, there was a lot of talk about moving Nimmo out of the leadoff spot because of his newfound power last year. He hit a career high 25 home runs. Maybe he has 30 in the tank. Who knows? But my initial.
You said before?
Sorry?
Before they signed...
before they
okay.
signed Martinez. So my initial thought process was, okay, you hit McNeil, McNeil, Lindor, Nimmo,
got it.
Alonso.
Yeah.
And I think that
Perfect.
made sense. But now if Martinez is
Obviously you
around,
gotta put him for...
right. But I think McNeil is a guy that I think thrives off consistency. So I think you need to find him a spot and let him just take
Yeah.
that spot, whether
That's
it's 5th or 6th or whatever.
That type of player, I feel like, needs consistent at-bats.
Definitely.
Like, you look at DJ LeMahieu for the Yankees. You look at even Volpe when he got consistent at-bats for a while. Just those type of, like, contact bat-to-ball guys, you get them consistent at bats, they're going to be a lot better than if they did not have those consistent at bats.
Right. And for this lineup to A, be deeper, and B, produce a good amount of runs, you need Jeff McNeil to produce, whether that's in the 5th spot, the 6th spot, or you move him down to the order. But McNeil needs to get things going. Like I said, Nimmo, Lindor, Alvarez, and maybe Alonso and Marte were the really only offensive presence during this series. Like we just mentioned, Alvarez needs to hit higher until Martinez is ready. There's no reason for him to be hitting 6th or 7th. He should be 4th. And Marte, he looks healthy, and I think that's the biggest thing. He hit that home run in opening day, over 100 miles an hour off the bat. He's playing some decent right field. Obviously, his defense is going to take a toll with his age, but he looks healthy, and that's the biggest thing so far.
Yeah.
But moving off of that, the defense this game, this series as a whole, was extremely shaky. You had Narvaez's catcher interference that led to a run. Beatty had this weird hop that he tried to catch the ball, but then he kind of put his hands together, and it kind of just like hit the in between of his hands. So he couldn't catch it with his glove, but he also couldn't catch it with his bare hand. And I don't think I would be reaching for a ball with my bare hand that came off the bat. So it's just very... And Lindor, I completely forgot about this because I don't think it led to anything, but Lindor completely sailed a ball over Alonso's head. So for a team that pushed the narrative that they're getting more athletic and more defensively minded, it was a very bad showing to begin the year.
Is this a trend across baseball of kind of fielding being like iffy opening weekend? Because like I'm trying to look into that right now. That's what I'm like doing. Because I know Yankees Astros, it was very choppy defense throughout it. So like I didn't know that was happening in other games.
Right.
So do you think that's maybe a trend for whatever reason? Because I'm looking at it and I don't really see anything.
Right.
But yeah.
It could be. I mean, it could just be, season starting, just, getting some rust off, all that stuff. But yeah, just overall very shaky defense. Defense. The bullpen was solid. Like I said, they gave you a lot of innings for, because Jose Quintana didn't last long, because Severino got shelled, because McGill only went 4 innings, and they gave up a couple runs. They kept you in the game. But my biggest thing is, after all this fiasco, after getting swept, after embarrassing yourself with this situation, the Mets still lack an identity. And I've talked about this in the past, especially when they were going through their whatever the hell they were going through during the summer last year. The Mets don't have an identity. Like, who are the Mets? What team do you want to be? Like, obviously, when you look at the Yankees, especially with Soto and especially after this weekend, it's the New York Yankees. It's the big, bad Yankees. You have Soto. You have Judge. Rizzo looks good. Stan hit a home run.
Barry Bonds.
Volpe looks better. Oswaldo Cabrera is coming out of nowhere.
And that's not even talking about guys like Verdugo and Birdie who had good hit. Like, okay, we'll talk Yankees later. But
but good role players who just fit the team. It just meshes. But the Mets don't have that. The Mets are kind of a lot of guys on the same team.
They don't really... The thing with the Mets is I feel that they signed a bunch of guys the last couple off seasons. They never really had... Like, I don't think they have that, like, big leader. Like, with the Yankees, you realistically have 3.
Right.
You have Judge, Cole, and from what I've heard, Soto is kind of like the Latin leader in the clubhouse for all the Latino players. So they don't really have kind of like that very good... Like, Alonso's a pretty solid leader.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not. But they don't really have that kind of guy that defines their team and everyone rallies behind.
Yeah. I would partially agree because I think Lindor is that guy. But like you said, I don't think it's to the point of the other guys you mentioned on the Yankees.
Yeah. Because I was just going to say, I'll get into it more later, but like Oswaldo Cabrera and Oswald Peraza changed their approaches because of Soto.
Right.
They changed it to more mimic him.
Right.
Like, you have guys that will watch Judge and Cole, like, Garrett Cole is literally their pitching coach right now.
Right.
You have Judge, where like he will literally be talking with people all the time.
Right.
We'll get into that more later, but that's
Yeah.
kind of more of
Right. Yeah.
that sense.
Kind of very similar because I know after Beatty's pinch hit home run, I know Lindor talked to Beatty. He kind of, he mentioned the same thing as I mentioned, like from a mental standpoint, like you did a great job, like good job, excellent job, like you handled this the right way. So Lindor's kind of that guy, but at the same time, he's more low key. It's behind the scenes. When he gets interviewed, if they lose, he puts it on him. If they win, it's a team.
Yeah.
But like after the third game, he's like, it's hard to score runs when your number 2 guy, Lindor, isn't getting on base. So he takes that blame when it's a loss, but then he gives it a team win when the team wins.
How a leader should be.
Right. So I think they have a guy like that in Lindor, but it's just not quite there yet. It's like I always feel like
it's kind of like a piece missing.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just going to say. I feel like there's just something missing.
It's small, but like...
And I think maybe Martinez can be that guy. He can, help the young guys because he's obviously
Definitely.
just a hitter. Like
he's a nerd.
Right. He's a nerd about hitting.
There's so many times where I've just like seen him against the Yankees, like when he's with the Red Sox. Like there's been so many times where it's like ESPN when they're doing the games where they will literally go into the detail of everything JD Martinez does in between at bats just to see it. And that's every game, every at bat. He goes deep into them, and he's a great clubhouse guy. And
Yeah. I think once they add him, maybe that helps mesh things
little bit,
together.
yeah.
But as of right now, they just seem a little lost. But with that being said, the quest for the first win of the season continues tonight, Monday night, as you'll probably be listening to this on Tuesday. They start a 3-game set against the Detroit Tigers, coming off a sweep of the Chicago White Sox. Monday's game, you have Sean Manaea making his season and Mets debut against the Tigers' Rhys Olsen. On Tuesday's game, you have Adrian Hauser against Casey Mize, I believe it was 2021 first-round pick, who seems to finally be healthy. Hauser again making his season and Mets debut. And then the last game of the series on Wednesday, you have a battle of lefties between Jose Quintana and Tariq Skubal. I mean, the only thing I could say about the series is you got to right the ship. You can't let this sweep get you down. You can't let it.
Where'd you say this is again?
This is at Citi Field.
At Citi Field.
Again, get a win in front of the home crowd. The Tigers are going to be a very interesting team this year, so a sweep is unlikely.
If you want to win that series, you have to win the first 2 games.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Skubal is one of my favorite pitchers. That's not even taking in the fact that he's a lefty too, and we all know about the Mets against lefties without JD Martinez.
Right.
So if you want to win that series, you have to win the first 2 games.
Definitely. And again, this series is right the ship, fix the little things, it's the small things in defense, in positioning, in at-bats, stuff like that. You want to start the year off right. There's still time to start the year off right and just wash away this first weekend. And, no better time like the present.
Yeah.
But that being said, the Mets are in a very interesting position to start the year.
Yeah.
And
that is putting it nicely.
yeah, and it's going to be extremely interesting to see how they respond to that. And we'll see. We will see.
Yeah.
But
so, on that note,
yeah,
let's transfer into a more high energy
yes,
aspect, and let's
definitely.
go to the Bronx.
Bronx.
Now entering the Bronx.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bronx. The Yankees, they surprised me. They surprised me. Before we get into the game of them sweeping the Astros in Houston, we just got some injury updates brought to you by the Triboro MD. I'm disappointed you didn't save that.
This is breaking news.
Breaking news. I'm sorry, but if you're breaking news, you got to be the Triboro MD.
I apologize.
Regardless. Sorry that I actually care. So DJ LeMahieu, it is confirmed that he fouled off a ball. He fouled the ball off his foot in spring training. They said it was just a bad bone bruise. They actually revealed once the swelling went down that it was a broken foot. I usually give the Yankees medical department shit. I don't think you can for this.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those things where you literally couldn't see it until the swelling went down.
Yeah.
But he's going to be out for a bit.
Yep.
I think they said at least a month.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have a set timeline for him, especially with the guy that has dealt with, that's the foot that's been getting hurt a lot. So it's...
Yeah, it's very case-by-case basis. You can't really compare it to anyone else. And like you said, for a guy who's been getting hurt a lot in that foot specifically, probably going to want to take it slow.
Oh, he's also an older dude, too.
Right.
So it's just... And I forget this all the time, but he's 6'4".
Yeah.
He's tall. He's a big dude.
Big
he
man.
doesn't seem big compared to the other guys on this team.
Right.
But he is a big dude.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big thing. Then here we have 2 injuries that they're perfectly fine. Just wanted to note. So Anthony Volpe was scratched from yesterday's lineup with a stomach bug. He had the shits. He is okay. He should be starting today. I'm not sure they confirmed it, but I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. He just needs some Pepto.
He will be fine. Yeah, he
Yes.
just needs Pepto. I think he'll start today. And then Gleyber Torres in game 2, he got hit in the hand. He stayed on the bases, but then when it went to the field, the bottom half of the inning, he got taken out, came back for game 3. He seems to be okay. So just get those out of the way.
Yep.
Then from there, it's all good.
Yeah, it must be nice.
So game 1, you had Nestor Cortez versus Framber Valdez. So Nestor went 5 innings, pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Frambler went 4.2, 5 hits, 3, what?
You said Frambler? The Frambler.
Frambler.
Sorry. Continue.
Valdez went 4 2/3, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 6 walks, 5 Ks. I will say this. So just the game they went down 4-0 early till the 5th inning where the Yankees scored 3 runs. In the 6th inning, Oswaldo Cabrera tied it on a solo shot. We'll get more into him later. Anthony.
You good?
Alex Verdugo.
Too many Anthony's on this team.
My head just went in the gutter. Sac fly for the lead in the 7th inning. And then the big thing. Juan Soto with a man rounding third. Guns the runner, which would have been the tying run in the bottom of the 9th at home. Yeah. That was an incredible throw.
Wow. Yeah, that was on the money.
On the money. A perfect... I talked about how Jackie Bradley Jr. in the offseason, they worked together in the defense, but you kind of look at what he's done this series, he has been very good defensively.
Yeah. Just really quick, I'm just looking at his arm value on Baseball Savant. 2019, first percentile, 2020, 24th, 2021, 4, 2022, 1, 2023, 82, and then he, starts off the year with an incredible throw like that. I don't know if it's just maybe he figured something out last year or it's just the off-season training with Bradley, but man, that throw was money, and it had to be.
It had to be.
Because it was Dubon.
Yeah, the fast
third,
guy.
right? Yeah, he's pretty fast. Had to be on the money. It was just chef's kiss.
And I don't know the exact quote, but I know it was an article by Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic. He was talking about how Soto kind of realized how big of a dip his defense has been having and how that's a priority. The whole offseason, that was his priority. He didn't really focus on hitting because he didn't need to. That's which we'll get into more of. But yeah, that's just
Juan
incredible
Soto
to see.
experience.
And before I get more into the hitters, I just want to say about Nestor, I think he pitched a lot better than his line showed. So he let up 3 runs in the first inning. There was a reliever warming in the first inning because he had 33 pitches. He ends up getting it out of it after those 33 pitches. Then the next 3 innings, he had 33 pitches. I think he let up a solo shot. I can't remember to who to get them the 4th run. But overall, you're telling me that obviously you can't take out the first inning, but you take out the first inning because you say nerves in Houston, whatever you want to be. 4 innings pitched, 1 earned run is not bad.
Yeah.
Against Houston, that's especially a team that can kill lefties because he has so many guys that just maul them.
Right.
I'm I'm fine
I'm
with
very
that.
satisfied with the way he pitched. That's
Yeah.
perfectly okay with me.
Especially for opening day in Houston, I'm fine
Right.
with that.
Yeah.
He also looked a lot better throughout the game.
Right.
Just, yeah, I just wanted to touch on him too because I think a lot of people were, you can't just look at the box score for that.
Right. They were already ready to write him off.
You can't.
Yeah.
But then going to the offense, they scored 5 runs, 5 different players had an RBI.
Mhm.
You had one from Volpe, one from Oswaldo, one from Soto, one from Verdugo, one from Rizzo. There were a lot of... Volpe in this game was 1 for 2 with 3 walks. Soto, 1 for 3 with 2 walks. Oswaldo Cabrera, 2 for 4 with an RBI and the tying run. Because we do player of the game on the Instagram, I had Volpe written down for player of the game going into the 9th inning. Then, I literally had the graphic already. The second Soto threw the guy out, I erased it, put in Juan Soto. We've seen a lot of better at-bats from Volpe.
Oh my god.
Where there were so many pitches that he would just swing out of his shoes, he would chase. No. He was spitting at them. He wasn't going for them. This flatter swing, you could tell he's a lot more confident with it.
Definitely.
And just a last note for this game, 9 walks from the offense. 9. That's incredible. That's just...
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it on Friday on the radio show, but you didn't really see Judge this game for
the series.
Right, and look what happened. I mean, the bottom part of your lineup produces like that. You don't need Judge to carry this offense like he's done the past 2. Would you even call it 3 years? Maybe not 3, but definitely 2, I would say. To have just that not comfortability, but just to have that pillow, I guess.
I get what you mean,
If Judge isn't producing, you have guys that will. Again, mentioned it on Friday, but that takes off pressure from Judge because he doesn't need to produce
do everything.
An insane pace for the Yankees to be in
Doesn't
the game.
need to break the home run record to have an average offense.
Right. And just to quickly touch on Volpe real quick, just about his swing. So last year, I know small sample size, but last year his average launch angle was 14.2. So far, 6.1.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot flatter, a lot more line drive driven, and his exit velocity is around the same. So he's hitting the ball around the same, but he's hitting it flatter and more barrel, I guess.
And a lot more, I'm curious if you have his whiff percentage there, because if you don't, it's fine. But he's fouling off a lot more pitches.
Right.
In the early, the first couple weeks last season, he had a good amount of foul balls, but then kind of just it was all or nothing. But now he's been fouling off a lot of balls.
Right. Yeah. So far, he has a 10% whiff percentage compared to 28 last year.
Yeah.
And of course, 4-game sample size.
3 game for him.
Right.
But,
but just to see the small things such as that kind of already make a difference because he had a good spring. So to see that translate, I think is extremely promising and very exciting for his future.
I agree. So going on to game 2, you had Carlos Rodon versus Christian Javier. Carlos Rodon went 4.1 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 4 Ks. Javier, I knew he was going to it's Christian Javier.
Yeah.
He went 6 innings, 4 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, 6 Ks. I will say the thing that really much so impressed me was how they got him out in 6 innings. Javier is that type of guy that they will, if you don't work the count against him, especially with how he pitches against the Yankees, he'll go 7 innings. 7-8 innings of just unhittable baseball. But to go on to Carlos Rodon, he gave up a run early, and then you have to go all the way to the 7th, where Oswaldo Cabrera, shocker, ties it up with a single, and then Soto base-loaded walk. And from there, the Yankees just kind of got some base runners, forced some errors, and yeah, they ended up getting 4 more runs, and then Stan hit his first of the year, making it a 7-1 finish. Oswaldo Cabrera went 4 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Soto went 3 for 4 with a walk. The thing with Oswaldo, too, is he was 4 for 4, got another at-bat. I really thought he was going to go 5 for 5. I really thought he was going to go 5 for 5.
Don't bet against him.
Dude,
He's a man possessed.
Dude, it's crazy. And just... There's not much to talk about that game. It's just good overall offense and putting pressure on the bases. Because if you're telling me you score 7 runs when Christian Javier is starting, sign me up literally every day of the week.
Yeah.
7 runs in the first place is great. But against probably the guy right now that I least want to see in a playoff game against the Yankees and Christian Javier, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a theme this entire series for the Yankees. Just,
Yeah. Like, seriously.
Keep going. Yeah.
Just, oh my God. But then moving on to game 3, Marcus Stroman went 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 unearned runs, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Hunter Brown went 4 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. So the Astros scored off pair off an error from Oswaldo Cabrera and Jose Abreu. I put in quotes hit by pitch. Did you see it?
No, I think I missed that.
So he pretty much, there was 2 strikes. I don't remember how many balls, but he swung. His bat was like, say this is like kind of the line you have to cross. Yeah. His bat was here. And it hit him when his bat was right here. And they called it a hit by pitch.
Yeah, I just pulled it up now. Yeah.
Yeah. And that extended the inning and they ended up getting another run by it.
Right.
So that's one of those calls that's horrible, right? Like that's not just bias.
That's a pretty bad call.
And they ended up getting another run from it.
Right.
And yeah, so overall this game,
a swing. Sorry, I was still looking
it's
at the
horrible.
video. That was so a swing.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
That's kind of the story for Stroman, where he had 3 unearned runs, but he pitched damn well.
Right.
Like, I think there was 2 or 3 double play balls, or he induced, I think, 3 double play balls. Only one of them was a double play.
Right.
Because the other 2 were errors.
Right.
And just going back to it, so Rizzo hit a liner at Abreu that he kind of can't manage. It was kind of like one of those ones where he kind of in between, sort of ended up scoring. More errors, make it 3-1 Astros. Then Wells walks, then Oswaldo Bonds hits a 2-run home run tying it. If you can count, that is 3 games in a row with with Oswaldo Cabrera tying the game. It's silly. And then Juan Soto hits a ball oppo to home run to give the Yankees the lead. That was just a great piece of hitting. The way that that is a great pitch. Like I can't remember who was pitching, but like if I'm the pitcher, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I can't even be mad. I hit my spot. It was a good pitch. I just went against one of the best hitters in the game, and he took it oppo.
Good pitch, better hitter.
Exactly. Then Anthony Volpe, he ended up hitting one out in the 8th inning just to give an insurance run, making it 5-3. Yankees close it out with Clay Holmes. Anthony Volpe went 2 for 4. Juan Soto went 2 for 5, just highlighting a couple guys. Then going on in game 4. So Clark Schmidt versus JP France. It's funny when I forget what it is now, but when I was like writing down the stats, they had JP France's name spelled out. So I was like, "Who are you?" Here, let me see if I can get it right now. Yeah, no, but I've never seen it spelled out. I was just like, "What? Who?" Jonathan Patrick France.
Never heard of him.
I was like, "Who?
Who is this guy?"
But yeah, so Clark went 5 and a third, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 0 walks, 5 Ks. JP France went 5 2/3, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 5 K. Very similar lines. They also had very similar games too, where they kind of let up a run early, and then were cruising for a while until the 6th inning, and then there's some traffic that like they got runners on, relievers came in. Those relievers each gave up 2 inherited runs and tied it at 3. And then you go all the way to the top of the 9th where Josh Hader comes in because that is, what's your opinion on that, by the way? Tied game, top of the 9th, you put in your closer.
Now, are you talking about Hader?
Yes.
Being that they're at home, I like the move.
I do as well.
Because obviously you trust him to keep the game where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously being at home, you have another chance to bat. So if he does his job and it's a tie game, then you have a chance to walk it off in the 9th without having to, score 2 runs or whatever.
It's also a thing for me at that point, you're not going to have a save situation in that game.
Yeah.
it literally is it's quite literally impossible to have a safe situation.
Right, you lose or you walk it off.
Exactly. So I agree. I think that was the right call. But anyways, so Glaber ends up getting to first on this really weird fielder's choice pop up. And then he stole second. I did not like that in the moment. I did not like it. I was like, why are you stealing second? What are you doing?
Mhm.
That ended up winning us the game.
Hey.
Because Juan Soto hit a ball, I think it was Oppo. He knocked in Glaber because Glaber is very smart on the pace paths, no matter what people will tell you. He ended up scoring that run. Then to end the game, Verdugo makes an incredible sliding play to get the last out. Juan Soto went 3 for 5 because of course he did. Then Anthony Rizzo went 2 for 4. That is a sweep.
A 4-game sweep.
4-game sweep in Houston. Their 4 best pitchers that are healthy playing.
Right.
I will say that, granted, they did have a decent amount of injuries to their pitching, but
Yeah, but still, I think the biggest thing
their
is...
offense was healthy.
Right. The offense was healthy. Bullpen was, I'm pretty sure, healthy.
Yeah.
And you look at the bullpen, it's a lot
I
of
think they
people...
didn't have Brian Abreu for the first 2 games because of suspension, but
Right.
other than that, he was there
Right.
for the other 2.
You look at the bullpen, this is one of the better bullpens in, the American League, maybe even the
You're the best
entire
closer in the
league.
AL.
Right. And you, scored off a run off Hader,
Mhm.
but the past 3 games, you came back against arguably one of the better bullpens.
Mhm.
That says a lot about a team.
I will say the only thing, because you saw it with Clay and Loizaga too, where Clay, Loizaga, and Josh Hader all pitched in 3 out of 4 of the games. So you could kind of see a thing in the last game where the hitters were kind of comfortable with all 3 of them,
Right.
just because they've seen them that much.
Yeah.
So I will say that for like just both ends, for Clay, for Hader, Loizaga. But still, it's still Josh Hader.
Right.
Like, that's like one of those things of like, yeah, you could see Mariano Rivera. Obviously, I'm not comparing him to, but you can see Mariano Rivera how many times. It doesn't matter. You're not hitting it because it's so disgusting. Like, you knew what pitch was coming. You could not hit it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it also doesn't matter because it's also Juan Soto who I did not realize he was that hated in Astroland.
Well, I mean...
It makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
But I did not, because obviously 2019, he single-handedly broke Astros fans' hearts.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can't, I thought he should have won the MVP. I can't remember if it was him or Rendon.
Juan Soto had a batting average of .277, 5 homers, 14 RBI, 12 runs scored in the entire postseason.
What about the World Series?
Let's see. I'm getting this off of StatMuse, by the way.
It's an incredible website.
Incredible. He hit 333, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 6 runs scored.
And 2 of those home runs gave them the lead in like the 7th or 8th inning.
Right.
So I thought he should have won the World Series MVP in 2019, but that's a completely different story.
Right.
But yeah, the point of the story is he is absolutely hated in Astroland, and I love that.
Especially now that he's on the Yankees.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Because he's one of those guys that's like, you're booing me? Okay.
Right.
Like, I'm going to use that, like, goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just.
Definitely. One quick thing on Clark, because I'm just looking at it now on Baseball Savant.
Mm-hmm.
His sinker was almost up 2 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
His cutter was almost up 2 miles an hour. He only threw 2 changeups, but it was slower, but had more spin on it.
That's good. That's exactly what you want.
Better vertical break.
Because you're also getting a difference in that velo.
Right.
Where you're getting a +2 on the sinker and the slider, you said? Or cutter. Sinker and cutter going up 2.
Yeah.
Changeups going down, how much did it say? Like couple. Let's call it 2. Let's call it 2. So it's a 4 more mile an hour difference, and you're getting more break and more spin. That's exactly what you want.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think
very promising.
I think it was a thing of he just gassed out because the one run he gave up early was a home run to Altuve, which he was due. Altuve didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you knew that there was 2 times Altuve could have walked off the game in 2 different games. I thought it was a walk. Like, I would have put money on it, but there's just a different feel.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is, but it's just there's a different feel to this team.
Definitely. You don't want to get carried away, but at the same time, how can you not? I completely agree. Obviously, the outside looking in, but like this team is more complete. This is one of the
Mhm.
more complete Yankee lineups. Forget
Mhm.
about team that I think we've seen in the last few years.
Mhm.
That from 1 to 9, you have a guy who can produce day in, day out. And you have role players like Oswaldo, who I don't think he was planning on making the team. Correct me if
No,
I'm
I
wrong.
think he may. If DJ didn't get hurt, I think he would have been that last roster spot. I don't think they traded for Birdie.
Right,
But I think he would have literally been the 26th man.
right. But again, fighting for a roster spot and
Yeah.
then having an incredible series, playing hero 3 out of the 4 games,
Mhm.
give or take. And then obviously you traded for Birdie, who didn't really play much this series, but still you have role players like that, like Verdugo, who had a spectacular defensive weekend, I will say. Just like, again, just feels complete.
Yeah.
1 through 9 just feels like it can feed off each other and just keep the line moving.
Mhm. One of my notes is that, yeah, obviously you added Soto, so the ceiling of this lineup is so much higher. The floor is so much higher because you're replacing Willie Calhoun with Juan Soto. You're replacing Jake Bauers with Alex Verdugo. You're replacing Billy McKinney with Trent Grisham. You're replacing so many guys that are just not good baseball players with league average to about league average players.
Right.
You're replacing Oswaldo Cabrera, or you're replacing IKF with maybe Oswaldo Cabrera, who I kind of mentioned this earlier, that he saw Soto swing and saw Soto wasn't trying to hit a home run. And he's like, why was I trying to hit a home run all last year?
Right.
So he's literally just trying to bat to ball, and that looks like it's worked so well.
So far, so good.
And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but one thing that he really struggled with was hitting the off speed in pitchers' counts. I'm pretty sure he had 4 hits against off speeds in pitchers' counts. So that's just something that really surprised me and really goes to show where, because I feel like a lot of time when guys kind of go on these runs, it's more so against, like, they'll just get like fastballs. Like I remember when
Right.
Greg Allen like 2 years ago went on that run, he like didn't have a single hit against a breaking ball, but Oswaldo's been hitting breaking balls.
Yeah. I have it's not in the specific counts, but just as a general. Last year against off speed, he hit 120 with, let's see, a 164 WOBA and 233 X WOBA. So far in 2024, he's hitting 600 with an 800 slug and a 613 WOBA.
It's not like it's against bums either.
Right.
Like, just that's very impressive to me. Just how
Definitely.
he's handled breaking pitches.
Yeah.
And something interesting to note too about him is that he he hit Josh Hader lefty.
Right.
Like he went in the box as a lefty hitter.
Right.
I think that you kind of just have to scratch righty. Like I think you just gotta. I think he should just be a lefty.
Yeah. I mean, all of his home runs came as a left-handed hitter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me that if he's going to be hitting more and more lefties as a lefty, when I'm pretty sure he only had, I could be wrong on this, but I think he only had 1 at-bat as a righty in spring training. And it's like, to me, it doesn't make much sense that if he's significantly better as a lefty, and if he hits lefties as a lefty, why aren't you doing it?
Right.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Definitely. And you see guys like that, like Tommy Edman on the Cardinals. I know we've brought up a few times that he's a switch hitter, but sometimes against some right-handed pitchers, I'm not sure the reasoning behind it, but he will hit righty-righty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worked out for him. So that could be Oswaldo's case.
Yeah. It's just very weird to me at times.
Definitely.
Yeah, but then moving on to another guy with, well, I'll talk about Volpe a little more just because I kind of have them lumped together, where Oswaldo and him, the improvements they've made in this offseason are incredible.
Right.
Where they both kind of had the same story where they were both just going for a lot more power than they really should have, and look how it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I took the over on like the home runs plus stolen bases.
Yeah,
Just because you saw that swing and just how different that swing was,
definitely.
you could tell he's at least going to get on base more.
Right.
And we've seen that. Like, I don't think he has a stolen base yet this year, but he's gotten on base a lot. Like,
It'll
just
come, yeah.
like there was something that the Yes Network showed where in the first 3 games, because obviously he didn't play the fourth, he had an average of 5 pitches per plate appearance, and MLB average last year was 3.9. Significantly better. That goes to fouling the pitches off, and just, it's going to come.
Yeah.
He already has a home run. I think that, weirdly enough, what will really show it is how he does when he gets back to Yankee Stadium.
Right.
Because, gotta remember, he's from the area. Like, we've all heard it a million times. Grew up a Yankee fan.
Right.
How he handles the pressure of being back at Yankee Stadium on the road. Because some
Yeah.
guys, they'll just play better on the road because,
Right.
like, there's less pressure.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they just press in front of, the home fans, and it's just...
Your family and just...
Right. It's a big mental game. I think
is, for sure.
It's been talked about a lot more in recent years, but the mentality players come into the game with matters sometimes a lot more than the process of an at-bat. And as long as he's in the correct mindset and he keeps the changes he's made consistent, then I think he's due for a big year, and that over-under is going to bite me in the butt.
Yeah. Do you regret, just from what you've seen so far?
So far, no, because I
No?
still think he's going to trade some home runs for doubles, but definitely if it's going to hit the over, it's going to hit the over because of the stolen bases.
100%. That was my I think he's just going to hit. I think he'll steal 35 plus.
Right.
That's my thing.
Right.
Because it's also a thing of he's not just a guy that can only steal second. Like, we've seen him multiple times steal third.
Right. Yeah.
But then moving on to a guy that hasn't done well is Aaron Judge, where he has. I want you to guess his OPS plus on the year.
2.
No.
Damn.
16.
Right.
I don't really care.
No.
Like, you literally swept the Astros with Aaron Judge and Gleyber Torres being pretty much not there.
Yeah.
Like, I think Judge had a sac fly, but other than that, that really wasn't it. He has 1 hit on the year, and I think he has a walk, but I don't really care.
Right.
Like, right now, it doesn't really matter because you have Juan Soto, who is, let's check his numbers right now. He is hitting 529. He has a 289 OPS plus.
Jesus.
He has a 600 on base. Like, it doesn't... If they can find a way... And also, Judge starts slow every year, so I'm not really concerned about that. But if you can find a way to have both of these guys going at the same time...
Right.
That's...
Right. That just brings the offense to another level. And,
That's crazy.
It's funny because it's, like the whole theme of this episode is just a tale of 2 weekends, really.
Yeah.
Nimmo's off to a slow start. Lindor's off to a slow start. World's ending. Aaron Judge is off to a slow start. Okay.
Aaron Judge is literally not there.
Right.
He is literally an auto out.
Right.
Pretty much.
Okay. It's because other people in the lineup are producing. And,
Yeah.
obviously that's something the Mets are lacking in that lineup depth.
Definitely.
But it's just funny.
Yeah, and then kind of 2 more guys I really only wanted to talk about. Or actually, there's a couple more things, but 2 more big ones is Alex Verdugo and Trent Grisham. So, first off, Alex Verdugo is a much better fielder than I thought, where it literally felt like everything. Like, I told my dad, like, there was, I think it was in the second game, there was like 5 plays in a row that went right to him, and it felt like he had to make these absolutely insane Superman plays, and he was right there. But I mean, like, these would have been impossible plays.
Right.
And he was right there on pretty much all of them. So it's just, I think he's a lot better than advertised, at least
Definitely.
defensively.
So far, yeah. And I mean, I think
He saved the game in the last game.
yeah, I'm just trying to find his
I'm not sure
defensive.
and they may not be that good because he didn't make a couple of the plays, but like just getting to the ball, he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, there was one play, I want to say it was in the second or third game, where he cut off a ball in the gap that I don't think any Yankee left fielder would have cut off last year.
Yeah. So far, he has 1 defensive run saved in left field in 4 games.
Yeah, which is probably already more than they had last year.
He had 0 all of last year in left field.
I was saying for the Yankees.
Oh, maybe.
But then the point I kind of want to bring up with Verdugo and Grisham is I don't, like, as much as I love Verdugo, he shouldn't just be an everyday player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really love the platoon between Verdugo and Grisham because, one, when you have Grisham playing, that you're able to get Judge off his feet in center, which obviously feet toe, very good. But you look at the numbers. In 2023, Alex Verdugo had a 109 WRC plus against righties, 67 against lefties. Trent Grisham had a 79 versus righties, 124 versus lefties. That's
pretty stark. I didn't, for Grisham at least. I didn't think it was going to be that.
Grisham is about 50% better versus lefties. Alex Verdugo is about 30% better versus righties when you compare it.
Yeah.
Verdugo is 40% better against righties than Grisham. Grisham is about, what is that? That's a high number. 30, that would bring you down to 90. He's about 60% better versus lefties.
Jeez.
To me,
Wow.
and even you look at their careers too. Let me go here and then to advance. Grisham has a 109 versus lefties, 92 versus righties. And then Verdugo in his career is, okay, if you want to let me click career, that'd be very nice. Baseball. This all coming from Fangraphs, by the way. He is 80 WRC plus versus lefties, 115 versus righties.
Right.
So in their careers, they've both shown that Verdugo, pretty solid hitter against righties. Grisham, solid hitter against lefties.
Right.
So to me, it doesn't, because I can't remember what the game was, but there was one game where they started Verdugo against a lefty, then Grisham against a righty, which kind of just didn't make sense to me.
Right.
Like, if you want to put in Verdugo late in the game for a pinch hit, whatever, like, I'm fine with that. But that's almost what it feels like, where you tell Verdugo, like, hey, look, like, you're a great player. We still want to get Judge off days, and we think this will help the team more. And if you can't handle it, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think he'll be fine with it, but...
Yeah. No, definitely. You look just solely on the numbers, it makes a ton of sense.
It's stark.
Yeah.
Stark.
Yeah, definitely.
So just, yeah. Then a quick note on just the bullpen. They had 15.1 innings pitched, 0 earned runs. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, what, last year, hold on, because now I'm interested.
They have the number 1 ERA in baseball.
In
if that's
bullpen
what
ERA?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's basically what I
don't know what
for.
the number was, but and a lot of people were like I was talking to like my cousins who are Mets fans. They're like, who do you guys have in your bullpen? Realistically, they only lost Wandy.
Right.
That was really the only guy they lost.
Yeah, sorry, but the other thing is too, they don't have a lot of big names, I would say. At least to a more so
casual.
To a more so casual fan, because Clay Holmes still gets a ton of hate for no reason.
He's inconsistent. That's the reason why. But
you have Loizaga, which is probably your biggest name,
and that's only because he's been there for a while.
Right.
Like, I would say, in my opinion, I think Ian Hamilton's the best reliever.
Okay.
That could be like a hot take, but I just think from a consistency like, I think Holmes should still be the closer, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think Ian Hamilton, from a consistency point of view, I think he's the best overall reliever.
Right.
And were you done, by the way, with what you were saying?
Yeah, that was really it, yeah.
I think that they're kind of hobbling together a Michael King role from Loizaga and Hamilton.
Okay.
Because they both had multi-inning appearances.
Yeah.
And they said with Loizaga, we want to use him in a 2-inning role and then not have him pitch for a couple days. He's had issues with health. For whatever reason, like, they seem to be shaking up the way they approach health.
Right.
Where Loizaga, they said, like, yeah, we believe it'll be healthier this way. You look at the Yankees lineup as well, where most of the time, like, we kind of had the thing where, like, the last game of the season or series where if they won the series already, it was a punt game. Be like, oh, get guys off their feet, whatever. But they would still get hurt doing that. Game 4, you won the first 3 games. Every one of your regular players was playing. The only one that wasn't playing was Anthony Volpe, and that's because he was in the bathroom shitting his brains out.
Right.
Every other player was playing.
Yeah.
So I think that they're approaching health differently. I think that could also be a personnel thing.
Yeah.
Where they're all like, yeah, like, we got to do better. They started doing more yoga, started doing more stretching and things like that nature, where I think that overall is just going to pay incredible dividends.
Definitely. Because that was one of the biggest things. I mean,
that's the only thing that can stop this team.
Health, yeah.
Health.
That's fair.
Like, I'm getting way ahead of myself when I say that, but the only thing that can stop this team from being a serious contender is health.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's just...
Completely agree.
And speaking of that, I almost killed myself second game where Juan Soto was running out from the dugout. He apparently twisted his ankle, and then I think it was Apple TV, panned to him just doubled over. I thought I was going to kill myself.
That was it.
I thought I was going to throw myself out a window.
Season's over.
Season's over. It was just...
But you just ate a banana and that guy was fine.
Dude, he munched that thing.
Garrett Cole's got some competition.
Dude, Garrett
now.
Cole's got some competition. But this has nothing to do with the Yankees, but just an overall thing. I hate the Apple TV broadcast and the Fox broadcast. They are the most biased things I've ever heard on the planet. The amount of I use a lot of analogies. The amount of fucking analogies I heard from that Apple TV broadcaster and just some of the stuff they would say. Like, there was a joke that they were making about, like, Cabrera where they were kind of just, like, shitting on him the entire time.
Right.
Where he had, like, a 1.5 OPS or something like that. They're like, oh, I don't think you can keep that up for much longer.
This is kind of off topic, but it kind of stays within the realm of bad broadcasting. I was watching the opening day game against the Rangers and Cubs on ESPN, and Eduardo Perez said something that just
I cannot stand him.
Pissed me off to no end. I don't remember exactly what he said, so I'm just going to paraphrase. But they were talking about Max Scherzer and the Rangers, how he's going to be back later in the year. And basically, he was talking about, yes, that's what it was, because he had, I think it was the same back issue or a back issue similar to David Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he was talking about how Max Scherzer is a guy who wants to be out there and that he'll be back. So what? Are you insinuating David Wright didn't want to fucking play the game?
Two completely different bodies, different time.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, the ESPN broadcast already is one of the... It's not my favorite broadcast, but just hearing that...
I don't blame you.
I'm sure that's not what he meant by it.
It's not what he meant.
But you
just...
gotta choose your words carefully, man.
Yeah.
Like, especially on a national broadcast. I'm surprised that didn't blow up more. Because that pissed me off to no end. I can only imagine.
Who are the Rangers playing?
The Cubs.
Granted, it's Rangers-Cubs. And
right.
Second off, it's also the Mets, where it's like in the sense of it's not going to... I don't want to say... It's not like it was the Dodgers he was saying it about. It's not like it was Yankees-Astros playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's kinda like,
if you're not a Mets fan, David Wright doesn't mean nearly as much to you.
Yeah,
obviously.
a lot of people don't realize how... Like, I didn't realize for a while how just dominant his prime was.
Right. I mean, David Wright was the franchise for a while. But regardless, that was just a little off topic that you talking about broadcasting just reminded me of. Just boiled my blood. Yeah. But
and then I also despise John Smoltz, where he could not be more biased if he tried. Just some of the... Like, who's the guy that's with him?
Fox?
Yeah. Because that guy was pissing me off, too. Because
is it Burkhart? Is he
yeah,
Fox?
Maybe, yes. I think so.
Hold on.
But, so he was talking, and that may be football. Because he's the Fox guy for football. I don't know if he also does baseball.
I know he did playoff games. But
no, but he was, like, talking about Soto. He's like, yeah, Soto's a really good hitter they added to the lineup. And then when Yordan Alvarez came up, they were like, oh, and the big, brooding bomber in Yordan Alvarez. It's like, where did this come from?
Was it Joe Davis?
Joe Davis, yes.
Joe Davis, yeah.
And then just, like, a lot of the stuff, too, where it's like, there was a lot of bad calls versus the Yankees. I'm not complaining about them, whatever. Like, both sides had bad calls. But I mean, like, literally horrific calls.
Yeah.
John Smoltz did not say a thing. When there was a bad call against the Astros, he was like, oh, that ball was a little bit... Like, literally, like, crying about it every single time.
Yeah.
And we see this every... Like, I don't get how companies can see that they have broadcasters this biased, getting this pissed off, like the fans are getting this pissed off, and they don't talk to them.
Well, you want to know why?
Ratings.
Because they're getting you and me to talk about it.
I know.
That's the thing.
But it's so, like...
It's extremely frustrating, and you can't not talk about it because of how just...
He's pissed off about 96 still.
Right.
Maybe don't blow a fucking 2-0 lead when you have 3 games at home.
Right.
My bad, John Smoltz.
Right. Like...
How's that 3-headed monster doing, buddy? How many fucking rings do you have?
This is an anti-Jones Smoltz podcast.
Dude, I cannot stand him. He is so... Like, he
is.
may be my... Like, I would rather listen to Carlos Beltran Any day of the week. I would listen to Carlos Beltran call 162 games before I had to listen to John Smoltz again. I don't care. Like, I was this close to muting the TV and putting on the radio.
Yeah. I wouldn't have blamed you.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
So
Anyways.
I got my demons out. That
Yeah.
was really the only bad part of the weekend was
just the
broadcasters. They
broadcasting.
pissed me off so much. But yeah, that's all I got. Unless you had any finishing notes.
No, I mean, just what a way to start the season for
No.
these Yankees. Obviously, it was coming off of last year.
Mhm.
I think they needed to start off hot, and you could not have started off hotter.
Yeah.
You know, I think this was a perfect culmination of the offseason
Mhm.
kind of just finally meshing
Yeah, for sure.
because obviously, whatever. Can't collect my thoughts right now.
I get
But,
what you mean.
yeah, just
The improvements you
start.
made in the offseason paying dividends.
basically. But yeah, no, good start, and just you got to keep it rolling. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes, that is what baseball season is.
That is baseball. But that's all I got.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah, I said
So-
I asked if you had anything else, so that's now
Alright.
your cue to do the outro. I
Yes.
didn't know if you got that based off what I was saying, so I just really want to make sure you got that.
I now understand that.
You get it now?
I get it now.
Okay, so why aren't you doing it?
So thank you guys for watching and or listening. Remember or both at the same time. You mute the
Do
YouTube
it.
video, play it on Spotify, so you get double the views for us. Thanks, we appreciate it.
Love you.
But thank you guys for watching and listening. Reminder to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook if you're on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. And remember to tune in on Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. for the Triboro Sports Show on 88.7 WNHU. Links are in the description. And again, thank you guys. Baseball season's back. We're very excited and glad to have you along for the ride.
And bye-bye.